Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a companion video. The companion videos are videos that we use to make up for the questions we didn't get around to live on the John Campea Show or Open Mic. Because on both of those shows every day, John Campea Show at 8:30 in the morning, Open Mic at 2 p.m. in the afternoon Pacific Standard Time, we take live questions, but we don't always have time to get around to all of the questions that get sent in. So I collect up those questions that didn't get answered and bring them into these companion videos. So without any further ado, let's dive into and start getting caught up here on some of these things. These questions are going back like 5 or 6 days, so we got a bunch to get caught up on here. The first one comes to us from James Dixon, who writes, "What was your first experience with a horror film?" Thanks to my sister, mine was American Werewolf in London when I was 6. Keep doing you. I often say American Werewolf in London is my all-time favorite horror movie. I love that movie to this day, and it is still the only movie as a grown-ass man that I cannot watch with the lights out. That movie still just terrifies me. Maybe it's because I watched it when I was so young and it made such an impression on me. But yeah, American Werewolf in London, man, I just love that one. But the first one, and I don't even know if it truly qualifies as a horror. I know some people sternly think it is a horror. Some people sternly think it isn't. But is Jaws. The first Jaws. I remember I saw that as a kid and I had to get my mom to come and lay down with me. Because like I couldn't sleep. I just couldn't sleep. Now hold on a second. Let me look this up here for a second, because what year did that movie come out? 1975. Yeah, so I watched that on home video, I guess, whether it was Laserdisc or VHS or something. I don't know what kind of home video system we would, or whether it was on television, whatever. But I remember having to get my mom to come in and lay down with me because I could not sleep alone. I had a hard time going in open bodies of water for a while after that. So yeah, Jaws was my first one, and yeah, it gave me nightmares for a long time. Neil Panchel writes, "Hey John, super bored at work right now. You help. I'm glad I can help." I'm always amazed how many people write to me and say they watch me while at work. That's awesome. James Boner writes, "Analog sounds intriguing, with modern couriers being reminiscent of the old Pony Express." So for those of you who know what James was talking about, this was a topic last week where it was just announced that one of the John Wick directors was going to be directing this new movie called Analog. And I think, I could be wrong about this, that's based on some sort of graphic novel. At any rate, the whole idea is the internet is no longer private. There's no privacy on the internet whatsoever. And like the internet's now only used for porn. And so if you have secure information or a private message you need to get somebody that you don't want the whole world knowing about, you have to send these private, physical, on-paper couriers. And so it's kind of an action thriller, sci-fi thriller kind of a thing. And you're absolutely right, James. It sounds great. The concept is great. Now, whether or not that concept actually translates into a great movie or not, we'll have to wait and find out. But I mean, for my money right now, it sounds really good. All right, Stephen Rowley writes, "Do you think the average person cares about director drama?" I think they care if they hear about it. I do, because people love drama. The whole reason the Kardashians is even a thing is because people love drama. I mean, that's it. So people love drama. The question becomes, does the average person hear about drama? Because we've been talking a lot lately about the behind the scenes director drama that went on with Solo. You know, the movie gets 80% of the way through shooting. They fire the directors, reshoot 80% of the movie. And the directors were pretty high-profile directors in Lord and Miller, the guys who directed the Lego movie and 21 and 22 Jump Street. So the question becomes, do the average person care about director drama? If they hear about it, yes. They absolutely do. People love and eat up drama. The bigger question when it comes to Solo is, was everybody aware of the director drama? And I'd say no, not everybody was aware. I think there were a bunch of people that were aware, but not everybody, because certainly we who travel the movie news websites and watch movie news shows like this one, we are the minority. So I think we all knew, and I think there's some people beyond these circles that also knew, but I don't think like 50% of the movie-going audience knew about it. I think probably a good 20-25% of the movie-going audience would have been aware of what was going on with the director drama, but that's probably about it. So that's why when talking about the Solo movie, when I would say there's no one reason that Solo came in as low as it did, and why it had, let's face it, not just disappointing, kind of a disastrous opening weekend, was partially because of the director drama, but it was certainly not the main thing and certainly not the only thing. There were multiple things. The director drama, yes. The fact that nobody wanted a Han Solo movie without Harrison Ford. The fact that there was a bunch of people who didn't like The Last Jedi. The fact that it was opening on another major mega blockbuster hits, Deadpool's just second weekend. I mean, and Avengers Infinity War still in theaters. Not that that had a big impact, but something of an impact. It was all these things joined into one, but it certainly wasn't just the director stuff by any stretch of the imagination, because I would say about 75% of the movie-going audience probably wasn't even aware of it. But when people are aware of it, just because we as creatures, we're suckers for wanting drama, yes, they care about director drama. If it's juicy drama. Emery writes, Phase 3 hasn't had a quote-unquote bad movie yet. Well, it depends who you ask. I don't think they've had a bad movie yet, but some people do. After Infinity War, I feel no excitement for any other movie besides Ant-Man and the Wasp. Not that they look bad, but man, I don't get where you're coming from, man. You think Winnie the Pooh, this Christopher Robin movie looks meh? You think this new Mission Impossible movie looks meh? You think Incredibles 2 looks meh? I mean, I don't know, man. Personally, I think there's an awful lot of really good-looking films coming out. So that's fine. I mean, look, and let's face it, even though I am one of those people who I agree with you, I've liked all the Phase 3 films. Not everybody has. There are people who don't like, even though it's hard for me to imagine, there are people who didn't like Thor Ragnarok. I loved it. I think a lot of people did. I think the majority of people did, but there's some who didn't. But I find that great. To be honest with you, I'm a little meh on Ant-Man. And I love Ant-Man. I love Ant-Man and Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. I love that whole thing. But I'll be honest with you, the trailers so far, I mean, the newest TV spot, which we're going to talk about in the John Campea show, the newest TV spot is probably the best piece of marketing I've seen so far. But I haven't been thrilled with the other trailers. So I'll be honest with you, my excitement level is not exactly through the roof for Ant-Man and the Wasp right now. Well, maybe it'll build up as we get a little bit closer, though. Game Win Cam writes, I love you. Well, thank you so much, Game Win Cam. I appreciate that very much. Mike Zambrano writes, I have to disagree. Infinity War is way better than Deadpool 2. Well, I mean, that's the beautiful thing about film, man. It's all subjective. You think Infinity War is the better overall movie? Perfectly fine. That's awesome. Good for you. To me, Deadpool 2 is the more enjoyable movie. I like them both very, very much. I like Infinity War very, very, very much. And definitely Infinity War and Deadpool 2 are completely different movies from each other. Like, they are polar opposite kinds of movies. So they're comparing apples to spaceships. They're completely different movies from one another. It's very difficult to compare. But if I had to rate, and certainly Infinity War does certain things better than Deadpool. Deadpool does certain things better than Infinity War. Overall, though, I just had a better time at Deadpool 2. That's not knocking anything about Infinity War. I love Infinity War, but neither of these films are my favorite film of the year. My favorite film of the year so far is A Quiet Place. By a mile is A Quiet Place. But yeah, I think then for me, Deadpool 2 just edges out Infinity War to me. But that's the beautiful thing about film, man, is the pure subjectivity of it. You like Infinity War more? Nothing wrong with that. Ben Lorenowitz writes, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, rated R for one F-bomb-filled scene. Do you think that scene added enough to the movie to justify shrinking potential audience? I don't really know that it shrunk a whole hell of a lot of the potential audience. I mean, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was never going to be a huge blockbuster. You know what I mean? Either way. I think they wanted to make the movie they wanted to make, and the movie they wanted to make had to have that one scene. They wanted that one scene. And if that was what they needed to make the film they wanted, totally worth it. It's not like putting in that one scene cost them $200 million or anything like that. So I think, I mean, and look, there's some, they could have gotten an R rating anyway, especially at that time. It's possible they could have got an R rating anyway, but yeah, I really don't think it affected it box office wise all that much. So some, absolutely. All that much, in the long run, probably not. And if that scene was really important to them and it's important to the movie, then yeah, I don't think they lost too much potential audience, to be honest with you. That's just I could be dead wrong about that. That's just my opinion. Phil Lee writes, what was the point of the Disney-Fox agreement from before if Comcast can still make bids? Well, see, here's the thing, though. A lot of people forget that you have different stages. So Fox's executive, their executive branch, can make a decision, oh, we want to go with this offer. But that's not the end of the story. What the executive branch then has to do is go to the shareholders. And the shareholders are ultimately the ones who will decide. And they make their recommendation to the shareholders. So the Fox, executives at that point can go, oh, we like the talks we've had with Disney. We want to go with Disney. And so they can go and make a presentation to the shareholders and say, we believe the best move for us is to go with Disney. However, until that's ratified by the shareholders, it's still open game. It's still open game. Disney put an offer on the table, and the executive said, yes, we like this offer. We're going to take it to our board. But guess what? That's not the end of the story. And if Comcast comes in with a compelling bid, you have to consider it, because if you don't, it's going to look like tampering, or it's going to look like a conflict of interest, or it's going to look like I forget the actual term I'm looking for here, but it's not going to look right. And the government, it could raise eyebrows with the government and make it look like improper executive behavior and all that kind of stuff, and it become bad for consumers and blah, blah, blah. If this is an open market, you have to show you are being open. And if Comcast puts together a good deal to pitch to the Fox shareholders, they got to go through with it. So it is significant that the Fox executive chose the Disney offer. But until it's done, anybody else can still come in with another offer to try to usurp the Disney offer. And if it's a really good one, you got to take that to the board as well, or you got to take that to the shareholders as well and let them know what their options are. Geo writes, better show, Buffy or Firefly? Buffy, in my opinion, so good. To me, it's easy. That's Firefly. And to be honest with you, to me, Buffy isn't even the best show in the Buffyverse. To me, Angel was better than Buffy. Now, I know most of you guys will disagree with me about that, and that's totally fine. Totally fine. I know a lot of people love Buffy. I liked Buffy. I didn't fall out of my chair, love it. I loved Angel, though. I don't know why. There was something about Angel that just clicked with me better, and I just liked that show a little bit more. But Firefly trumps both of them, in my opinion. So it's cool you feel differently, but if you're going to ask me which one was better, Firefly by a mile. Marv Diesel writes, hey, Giovanni, where'd your music go for Movie News feed? Well, the Movie News feed, I used to have this background music because the Movie News feed only used to be me reading the stories and giving the information in the stories and not giving commentary. Once I started, but then I had a few people asking me, hey, John, can you start doing commentary with the Movie News feed? Okay. So, but once I start doing commentary, you don't want to have music playing under commentary. So it just made more sense not to have the music there. So that's why I chose to pull it out. But who knows, maybe I'll experiment with it more in the future, but that's why I pulled it out. ZCM Zombie Custom Maps writes, have you seen the Daniel Plainview Saturday Night Live skit, I'm going to drink your milkshake? Nope, haven't. Honestly, I don't watch a lot of Saturday Night Live unless people say, this one skit this week was amazing. Then I'll check it out. But for the most part, I don't really follow Saturday Night Live very closely. Trevor Brooks writes, saw Solo last night. Not my favorite, but good. I mean, yeah, it is my 6th favorite Star Wars film. In order, it's Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, A New Hope, The Force Awakens, Rogue One, Solo, Last Jedi, and then way down after that comes your prequels and your Clone Wars animated film. So it is my 6th favorite Star Wars film. I enjoy it quite a bit. Not the best, not going to be in any discussions of best film of the year or anything like that. But yeah, good, fun summer movie. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm glad you did too. Toonie2 writes, I love the Solo movie. I hope you were wrong, John. This question came in before Solo opened, obviously. I love the Solo movie. I hope you are wrong, John, and that it makes lots of money. I want more of Alden's Han. Solo, he is great. He was very good as Solo. You know what? I had a lot of confidence the whole time that Alden Ehrenreich would do a good job as Solo. It doesn't change the fact that people wanted a Harrison Ford Han Solo movie, not anybody else playing Harrison or anybody else playing Solo. But I always had huge confidence in Alden Ehrenreich, and seeing how he executed that was great. Even Harrison Ford has heaped a lot of praise on his performance. So that's really good. I also enjoy the movie, but it did end up being lower than even I said it was going to be. Because I said it was going to, my guess was going to be coming in around 100. It came in even lower than that. So yeah, that's just kind of the way it turned out. 31 Kings writes, hey John, big fan. I recently saw You Were Never Really Here with Joaquin Phoenix. And was blown away. Have you seen it? And if so, what are your quick thoughts on the movie? I think it can be an awards contender. Again, far too early to talk about any movie as far as awards go. I was late to the You Were Never Really Here party. Like, I watched it after most people did, and it's quite good. And Joaquin Phoenix is great in it. It's got a little bit of Man on Fire, a little bit of a Man on Fire kind of vibe to it, but a totally different tonally in that respect too. I don't know. I mean, it's certainly not in my top 5 best films of the year so far. Maybe top 8, somewhere around there. As far as Oscar and awards contention, I honestly don't think so. Again, it's far too early to say. My first impression is probably not. It's a very solid movie. I enjoyed it. I think most people will. It's a very well done movie, but I don't think it's going to be, talked about a lot when awards seasons come. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but my first impression is probably not. Razor Edge Frisbee writes, appreciate the honest response to my Justice League Darkseid/Thanos question yesterday. I know it comes down to execution, just some fun fan fiction. And this is the problem with me not doing the companion videos more often, is that I forget what the question was that you're talking about. So my apologies, Razor Edge, but everything, it does come down to execution, fan fiction, all that kind of stuff. So thank you for writing that in. I appreciate that. Rico79 writes, hey John, first time sending in a chat. I wanted to recommend the 2011 film The Artist to the viewers. It's on my top 10 list. James Cromwell, great actor. Well, first of all, like The Artist, it won like 5 Academy Awards, and like big Academy Awards, like Best Picture of the Year, Best Director, Best Supporting Actress, and is it Jean Dujardin? I think it's Jean Dujardin won Best Actor of the Year. And then it won a 5th, but it won 5. It was nominated for a bunch of others. It's a great movie. It's a silent film, which they never make those anymore. But it's a silent film made in the old Hollywood style, set in the old Hollywood era as well. Charming, wonderful movie. I did not think it should have won Best Picture, to be honest with you, but it did, and it was certainly a worthy nominee. It absolutely was. I just didn't think it should have won, but it did. But yeah, if you have not seen it, listen to Ryko's suggestion. Check out The Artist if you haven't checked it out yet. Stephen Roth writes, after rewatching Black Panther last weekend and Infinity War last night, I'm convinced that General Okoye's side-eye is more powerful than Dom with the Infinity Gauntlet. Yeah, I mean, there is something, I forget the name of the actress. She's in Walking Dead, I believe. But the one who plays Okoye, her side-eye, like her mean, angry, I'm annoyed with you, kind of, I'm about to kick your ass side-eye. Oh my God, that could crack mountains. Her stare, she's got so much intensity in her face, and it all becomes powered by the way she portrays the character. Because if the character was kind of a weaker character and then did the same side-eye, not as much. But because she sets up that character the way she does, then that side-eye, man, you're right, stronger than Dominic Toretto with the Infinity Gauntlet, no doubt. Old Flicks Joe writes, what about James Mangold's Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic movie instead of a not really interested Boba Fett getting movie? I don't know. I don't really care. I mean, I'm honestly not all that interested in a Knights of the Old Republic movie. I'd be more interested in a story centered in the Old Republic, sure, but quite frankly, I'm not interested in a Knights of the Old Republic movie, to be quite honest with you. And again, I'm really not all that interested in a Boba Fett movie. The only reason you've got any interest for me in that is because you've got James Mangold now attached to direct, who of course directed Logan and a bunch of other really good movies. Okay, fine. That makes me somewhat interested, but I will go with you on this Old Flick show that I would have been even more interested if you announced James Mangold was directing some other kind of Star Wars movie other than yet another prequel thing of let's explore a character we've already met, one that we shouldn't be unveiling the mystery of anyway. So Yeah, I wouldn't. I really don't care about Knights of the Old Republic movie, but almost anything else other than Boba Fett, I'd probably be even more interested. So yeah, I agree with you on that. Just not the Knights of the Old Republic part. Chris Martin writes, Solo, a Star Wars story, was great. Tons of action, great acting and musical score. The surprise cameo topped it off. So well done. Very surprised. Yeah, I was quite surprised. Now, I was expecting a good performance from Alden Ehrenreich. I was expecting a good performance from Donald Glover as Lando. I was expecting a well-directed film from Ron Howard. But honestly, beyond that, I didn't really know what else to expect. And it's a really fun movie. And I think that's the vast majority of the people are coming out saying that. I'm going to be interested in seeing the cinema score. The cinema score should come out in the next 24 hours. I'm expecting minimum B+, probably A- range, but we'll see what the cinema score has to say here pretty soon. Chrissy Lou writes, my circles are buzzing about the new Ethan Hawke movie, First Reformed. Oh yeah, the trailer for that dropped a little while ago. Thoughts? From reviews, it seems like it may have similar themes with Infinity War, although tackled very differently. I didn't get an Infinity War vibe from it, but yeah, first of all, Handsome Hawk, aka Ethan Hawke, is a terrific performer. He's so good in anything you put him in. And this thing, he plays a priest with a troubled past and a troubled present as he's trying to wrestle through some things. And then you watch this first trailer, and then I'm not going to give away what happens in the trailer, but this kind of curveball comes in. Like, the first part of the trailer makes you feel like, okay, it's just this priest with a little bit of a past, kind of struggling to find his way and all this kind of stuff. And then this kind of curveball comes in the trailer that really makes you go, whoa, wait a minute. And then it kind of goes off in these different directions. I'm completely with you, Chrissy Lou. This film really looks interesting. A bunch of people have already seen it at different film festivals, and they're raving about it. So yeah, I'm quite curious to check it out when I get a chance. Gabe Campbell writes, with Solo quote-unquote bombing and Lord and Miller getting fired and the Episode 9 drama, do you think Star Wars is in trouble, or is this a slight bump in the road? I'm not familiar with any Episode 9 drama other than the fact that, they changed out directors and brought in J.J. Abrams, which I'm totally fine with because I love The Force Awakens. I love what he did with Force Awakens. No, I don't think Star Wars is in trouble unless... Look, they've put out, before Solo, 3 films in a row, all of them crossed into the $1 billion club. Clearly not in trouble. But what this Solo thing did, I think they've got to learn some lessons from this. Because, yeah, it was a little bit more than a bump in the road, but it wasn't inconsequential. Like, they need to learn about, the fact nobody asked for a Han Solo movie. I've been saying this for a year. Nobody asked for a Han Solo movie. The vast majority of the audience, even though I was very excited about the casting of Alden Ehrenreich, the fact of the matter is, people did not want a Han Solo movie without Harrison Ford. Lucasfilm ignored that. Okay, fine, that's their prerogative. They opened it up in a very busy month. Fine, you can open up in a very busy month. It was opening up just 1 week. Now, you always hear me say, 2 weeks, you're okay. 2 weeks buffer, you're fine. But putting it just 1 week after the release of another major blockbuster film in Deadpool 2, that was a ludicrous decision. Ludicrous decision. I think it was fine to put it in May, but move it. Why do you want to know why? Do you remember Avengers Infinity War, last minute, moved their release date up 1 week? You want to know why? Because they realized, you know what? 2 weeks buffer from Deadpool isn't even enough. We want 3 weeks buffer before Deadpool hits. And it was a brilliant move on their part, because they basically had the box office all to themselves for 3 full weeks. It was a brilliant move. And one of the reasons that Avengers Infinity War is about to cross that $2 billion mark. Brilliant move. Opening up Solo just 1 week from Deadpool was not a great idea. Now, as some people are pointing out, but John, Deadpool moved their date to before Solo. Yeah, but even before that, Solo was just opening up 1 week before Deadpool. It was still only separated by 1 week. It wasn't a great idea. Also, coming off of a film, The Last Jedi, that's probably the most divisive film. The majority of people like The Last Jedi, but it is, without question, the most divisive film that Star Wars has ever put out. What about the prequels? The prequels weren't divisive. Most people hated those movies. Some people liked them, great, but the vast majority of people didn't like those films. The Last Jedi was divisive. So you're coming off that. You've got it 1 week separated from another blockbuster film. You've got a film that nobody asked for with Han Solo without Harrison Ford. You've got it still with Avengers Infinity War in the theater. So that wasn't a big impact, but a little bit of one. They just need, if they don't learn their lessons here, then they could be in trouble. I mean, look, if episode 9 comes out, makes over $1 billion, boom, who cares? All is forgotten. But look, if episode 9 comes out, and I don't care if it makes $1 under $1 billion, if episode 9 comes out and does not join that $1 billion club, yeah, it's in trouble. There's no getting away with it. I'm a big Star Wars defender, but there's no getting around that. It's in trouble. Right now, it's a big pothole. It's a speed bump right now. But you go into episode 9 now, and you get rid of all those other extenuating circumstances, and you don't hit $1 billion, that's problems. So we got a year and a half until that happens. We're going to have to just kind of wait and see. All right, let's see here. Velushkin writes, "Hey, John, how are you? Heard you talk about the Scooby Natural episode, and I watched it, absolutely loved it. It got me watching the show again." Yeah, for those of you who might not have been watching for a while, the show Supernatural, one of my favorite shows on TV for the last 10 years, did this special episode a little while ago called Scooby Natural, where Sam and Dean Winchester get sucked into an animated world with Scooby-Doo. It's wonderful. And one of the best things about it is you don't even have to really know Supernatural to watch it. It's a fantastic episode. People loved it and raved about it. I'm glad you had a chance to check it out, Volushkin. If you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, I highly encourage that you do. Patrick Conway writes, imagine reaction if Spielberg quits Indy 5 due to creative differences with Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy after 70% is done. I'm joking, but the reaction, oh my God, no. Like, here's what would make that even all the worse. I think the fallout from that are worse than you're even joking about. Because Kathleen Kennedy has no bigger fan and no bigger supporter than Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg has said she's simply the most gifted producer he's ever worked with. So he loves Kathleen Kennedy. If that guy who loves Kathleen Kennedy, if we were to hear that Steven Spielberg, the most gifted filmmaker of all time, walked off of Indy halfway through, 70% of the way through shooting Indy 5 over creative differences with Kathleen Kennedy, the sky would fall. I mean, there's just no getting around that. The sky would fall. And there'd be no excuses because he even likes her. He loves her. And my biggest criticism of Kathleen Kennedy to date has been she has not done the most important job in her position, which is making sure you get the right directors on board, then making sure that they understand your vision and you understand theirs, and both you are on the same page. She has failed at that. 4 films in, and we've had no less than 4 major turnovers with the directors already. If that happened with Steven Spielberg, I know you're kind of joking, but oh my God, it would be a sky is falling scenario. It would be that bad. I'm telling you, man. Gabe Campbell writes, saw Solo twice. It's so good. It deserved more money. Hey, you know what? It's a really good movie. I had fun with it. It made $83 million. Like I said, lots of films, lots of directors would kill once in their career to have a movie open to $83 million. But this is not just any movie. It's a Star Wars movie. So, yeah, it did deserve more. It deserved more, but it didn't get it. And now Lucasfilm has to learn lessons from that. ZCM Zombie writes, what's the difference between character development and character building? Plus, I couldn't see Solo this weekend because of wisdom teeth removal. Well, make sure you get a chance to go out and see it. Honestly, off the top of my head, I think it's just interchangeable phrases. Character development, character building, it's probably just interchangeable phrases. Unless somebody else out there has a better answer than that to me, I'm just going to stick with interchangeable phrases, completely interchangeable phrases. All right, Miles Pardo writes, Jurassic World 2 reviews probably have early lift because UK release is June 6th due to World Cup, and so Universal knows buzz will make it stateside regardless. Yeah, so a question came out on the John Campea show the other day about, hey, is it a good sign that Universal is lifting the review embargo on Jurassic World like 16, 17 days before the movie even opens, because the review embargo for Jurassic World lifts on June 5th. I'm seeing the movie the morning of June 5th. I'll put up my review a little bit later that day. That'll be a week from today. That'll be on next Tuesday. And I was like, hey, I mean, it doesn't automatically mean it's good, but at least says that the studios got confidence in it. Well, as a bunch of you guys, this is the great thing about having a film fan community, then jumped on Twitter to remind me of, is that, well, it's actually opening in the UK shortly after the 5th. So they kind of have to lift the review embargo. So it's a very good point. Still, I believe Universal has a lot of faith in this film. I think we've heard some really strong fan reaction from those public screenings that they did in Spain. Does that mean the movie's going to be good? No. But at least there's some encouraging signs out there. So again, we're 1 week away from me being able to see it, and I'll let you guys know how it turns out. All right. Asmer Junkie writes, John, The Expanse is on Amazon. You should watch it. You know what the funny thing is about The Expanse? I was going to start watching it this one time, and a couple of friends of mine said they watched it and it wasn't very good. So I've just never watched it. I've never been interested in watching it. But once they announced that it was getting canceled, then a lot of people started going, no, you got to watch this show. You got to watch this show. So yeah, maybe I'll get myself around to checking it out, because I'm hearing enough of you guys telling me that I should watch it. That's exactly what happened with Into the Badlands. I never bothered checking out Into the Badlands, and all you guys started telling me about it. Well, I'm like, okay, I'll check it out. And I love it. Love Into the Badlands. So maybe I'll give The Expanse a shot at some point. Gabe Campbell writes, Caravan of Courage is the best Star Wars movie. For those of you who don't know, Caravan of Courage is one of the Ewok movies. I know you're kidding, Gabe, but hey, if you're being serious, all film's subjective, and if you like it, that's awesome. But that's all I'm going to say at this point. Kevin Campbell writes, thoughts on Bond 25 filming and releasing in 1 year? They did the same with Spectre, and we saw that turned out. Oh, that's irrelevant. That's irrelevant. You don't need that much time to shoot a movie. All you got to do is make sure your pre-production is done, and you've got your script laid out the way you want it, and you've got it all planned out the way you want. Then once you start shooting, it actually doesn't take that long to make a movie. Especially movies that's not going to be visual effects heavy. Like, a lot of movies shoot in 10 weeks or less. So then you do your post-production, your editing, your scoring, all that kind of stuff. That takes another few months. You're ready to go. So I know it strikes some people as odd. It's like, oh my gosh, they're going to shoot and release it within a year? Are they rushing it? No, remember, they've been working on this for a long time. Danny Boyle and his writing partner have been working on this thing for a long time. They're going to have this thing all planned out, all that kind of stuff. Believe you me, it has nothing to do with how the final quality of the film is going to turn out. Not at all. Regardless of whether they shoot it and it comes out 2 years later, or they shoot it and comes out within the same year, they're still only going to shoot probably for about 16 weeks. It's probably about how long you're going to shoot it for regardless. Then how much time does this movie actually need for post-production? Probably not a hell of a lot. So I wouldn't, that's almost like saying, here's the thing, Campbell, it's saying like, thoughts on Bond 25 filming, and it's starting its filming on a Wednesday. Spectre also started their filming on a Wednesday, and look how that turned out. There's a connect. No, no. Trust, that has nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing to do with it whatsoever. I know it seems like it's a really quick turnaround time, but it's really not for a film like James Bond. Michael Soleric writes, Ron Howard's response to this underwhelming opening for Solo shows he is a class act, didn't throw anyone under the bus, and said it was his best OW. I don't know what that means, and I haven't seen Ron Howard's response, to be honest with you. I haven't heard his reaction or seen his response, so I need to look into that. But, I mean, Ron Howard is a class individual. He's nothing but class. So I would expect no less from him. And, you know, he did a good job. He came in and he made a good Solo movie. That's all he could do. All he could do is come in and make the best movie he could, and he succeeded. He did a good job. After that, it's a whole bunch of other factors that come into play here. Gabe Campbell writes, obviously no spoilers, but what do you think of that character reveal that I can't remember yelling in a theater so loud in my life? We're talking about Solo here. Loved the character reveal. My jaw was honestly open. It was the one time in the movie my jaw was like, and I turned to my wife, and it was a great moment. It was a wonderful moment in the film. Gabe follows it up with, The Prestige is a Nolan movie not talked about much, and that's a problem because it's amazing. Prestige is great. I hear people talk about it all the time. Actually, it was just on TV again the other day. Michael Caine, Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, Scarlett Johansson. It's a wonderful movie. It's a great movie. I'm not really big on the ending. That's always been my one problem with The Prestige is the ending. The ending did not work for me, but overall the film is great. My favorite film from Christopher Nolan is still Insomnia, but that is one nobody talks about. I bet a lot of people couldn't even tell you that was, if you told somebody to list off all the Christopher Nolan movies you know, most people wouldn't even say Insomnia. They wouldn't even know they wouldn't even know it exists. All right. And the final question today as we wrap up this session of the companion video is from Kevin Campbell, who writes, why can nobody seem to recapture the magic of the Christopher Reeve Superman in modern DCEU? Why has there been no Superman standalone since 2013? Well, those are two different questions. As far as not being able to get, I'll be honest with you, and I get people yell at me about this all the time. I don't think that original Superman movie aged very well. It doesn't stand up. Now, at the time, it was a little bit different. And I remember at the time, the big marketing slogan was, you'll believe a man can fly. And it was all the way they did their visual effects with it that just blew people away. Because it made you believe a man could fly. I mean, that was their big marketing. Today, obviously, that's not so much the case. And you take some of that away, and the charm of it is still there. I honestly don't think it's all that great. I don't. So, honestly, I think Man of Steel is a better Superman movie than the first Christopher Reeve Superman. I know everybody yells at me for that, but I really do. Now, why has there not been another standalone Superman film since 2013? You're going to have to ask the guys at Warner Brothers about that. I love Man of Steel. They should have had another one by now. But at the same time, they were facing a problem. For whatever reason, the reviews of it were pretty split. It seems like half the people out there don't like Man of Steel. That is beyond me because I think it is a top 10 best comic book film of all time. Man of Steel is in the top 10 best comic book films of all time. And one of the two most underrated comic book movies ever. That and the first Thor, directed by Kenneth Branagh. So it should have been, but, it was divisive. Not enough people got on board with it. It underwhelmed a little bit at the box office. I think it made in the $600 million range at the box office. So to them, that was a little bit underwhelming, I suppose. But they just never got around to doing another one. So I wish they did because, man, I love Henry Cavill as Superman. I really, really do. All right, guys, that will do it for this installment of the companion videos. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget, guys, 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time every day is our main show, The John Campea Show, running you down all the big things going on in the world of movie news, keeping you caught up to date with all the stuff going on so that in your little circle of friends, you know more about the world of movies than they do. And also at 2 o'clock in the afternoons, we, of course, got the Open Mic Show, which is an hour of taking open live questions. So make sure you join us for that, guys. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter, simply at John Campea. That'll do it for me for now, guys. My name's John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.